Hello everyone, FPL Raptor here and welcome back to another video on my YouTube channel. In today's video we have my double Game Week 28 team selection and we also have an eye on how I plan on dealing with Blank Gameweek 29 and beyond as well. If you do enjoy today's video, make sure to smash that like button, and if you're new around here, make sure to subscribe as well. But without further ado, let's jump into it. So guys, jumping straight into my team selection for Game Week 28, I have 3.1 million in the bank, one free transfer, and as you can see on your screen directly above my head, I'm currently looking at still deploying the strategy of wildcard in either 30 or 31, the other side of the Blank Game Week, free hitting in Game Week 34, which is likely to be a small double and potentially a small blank, and then playing my bench boost in the remaining biggest double Game Week of the season, which could add up to potentially 10 or 12 teams doubling in Game Week 37. So that is the current plan, and that has been the plan now for me for quite a while. But I just wanted to have a quick note on chip strategy and when you should decide to pivot and if you should decide to change your plan. Because naturally, as humans, we have this cognitive bias known as plan continuation bias. As humans, we create a plan and we often try to stick to that plan because we feel like we're failing ourselves if we change it. We are quite close-minded, stubborn people, but we're also quite determined, the human race, right? So when we create a plan, we're like, do you know what? I want to stick to that plan. I created that plan for a reason. But there does become a point when you are being too close-minded and too stubborn. If you are presented with new information and the context has now changed and you decide to ignore that new information, we're deploying a second bias known as the Semmelweis reflex, which is you are directly ignoring new information which should probably alter your plan. And I think as human beings, this is a natural tendency, but I think as content creators, it becomes even more difficult because we are telling hundreds of thousands of people, this is my plan, I think this is the best strategy, and naturally a lot of people follow that plan. So let's say around Game Week 20, I said, I'm going to do the above strategy because I did. People started to follow me on that. They started to bring in players that we knew that would play in Game Week 29. They've been taking hits to avoid having to use the free hit. So if I now tell you, actually, psych, I think I'm going to free hit in 29, it does feel like I'm almost letting you down and changing my plan when I should just stick to it. So I think content creators in particular can be very stubborn, but I think this is also the case for you guys. Let's say you put out a tweet that's like, I think free hit 29 is the best strategy. Sometimes you might feel like you have to stick to that strategy. So I just wanted to say, try not to be too close-minded and too stubborn. And I myself am looking at this and thinking, I am 1 or 2 injuries away from changing this strategy. If I get another injury to another player that plays in 29 or something else changes, I could be forced to either wildcard this week, which I haven't fully ruled out, or just go for the free hit 29 strategy and start selling some of my players that play in 29. I still am 60 to 70% more likely to do the wildcard 31 strategy. But I just wanted to say to you, if I do change my strategy, I wasn't lying to you. It's just the fact that new context and information comes in and sometimes that forces you to adapt your strategy. So there's a bit of a psychology discussion around being closed-minded and being willing to change your strategy as well. But let's go off the basis in this video that this is the strategy that I'll be going with, which means I need to bring in players this week that play in 29. I have no transfers to waste bringing in players that don't, and I will be taking a big boy hit this week. We are looking at a minimum of a -4, probably a -8, and I have gone back and forth on whether a -12 might be worth it, but I'm probably looking more so at a -8 at the moment. The comments that I've been getting for a while now are, if you're taking a -8 this week, you might have to take a hit next week. You're still not fielding 11 players. Why on earth don't you just decide to free hit this week? And that is an absolutely perfect, viable counter to what I'm about to tell you. But what I would say is, if you don't take hits now and you choose to free hit, you're going to have to take hits later. Unless you just get super lucky with the way your team sets up and what happens, there will be a point in the season where you are struggling more because you've chosen to play your chips at other points in the season. So if you don't take a hit this week, let's say you decide to free hit 29 and wildcard 35. I've looked at that strategy for my team. I'm probably looking at a couple of hits in 30 and 31 to get Salah back into my team. Whereas if I wildcard, I don't have to take those hits. And then in Game Week 34, you might have to take hits, potentially, to field the best team possible, whereas I would be free hitting in that week. So it's basically, where do you decide to struggle and where do you decide to have the best team? And I just feel like saving my wildcard, free hit and bench boost for the final 7 or 8 game weeks of the season puts me in the best spot. So yes, I will be taking a big hit this week, and no, it's not ideal, and I will probably lose rank in the next couple, but I'm hoping I can make that up in the back end of the season. So with that long rant about chip strategy out the way, this is the way the team's currently set up. So in goal, I've got Areola and Kelleher. There is some temptation to make a goalkeeper transfer for me, right? I've probably got Kaminsky and Neto as the 2 options this week. Kaminsky gives me an extra fixture this week. and also probably a better fixture in 29 than Areola. So it would be Kelleher coming out, it wouldn't be Areola coming out, but it would give me, like I said, not only an extra fixture this week for potential save points, and Kaminsky does make a lot of saves, but also a better fixture, I think, in 29, because Areola's got Villa and Kaminsky's got Forest. So there is some temptation there to bring in Kaminsky, but I actually think Areola against Burnley at home isn't too far off Kaminsky with 2 away fixtures, especially considering most of us are captaining Solanke. We probably expect them to concede there. And then Crystal Palace, they've got Eze back. Could they score, especially given it's at Selhurst Park? Absolutely. So I'm not sure Kaminsky is that much stronger than Areola for this week and also next week. The other thing to note is if I go for Neto, I think he's got a better double this week. So he's got 2 fixtures this week, but they're 2 home fixtures. And I think there's a much greater chance for a clean sheet. Bournemouth are probably a slightly better defence as well. He obviously doesn't play in 29, but I've got Areola anyway. And then in game week 30, I actually think he's got a better fixture than Areola and Kaminsky, and maybe even Kelleher. So in game week 30, I could then play Neto again before my wildcard in 31. So I actually think, despite me not being on a free hit in 29, I think Neto makes more sense than Kaminsky if I am to make a goalkeeper transfer. And I have gone back and forth on whether it is worth an extra -4 to bring in Neto for Kelleher and play him instead of Areola in 28, and then instead of obviously Kelleher in 30. I'm still thinking about this. If I make all of my other planned moves, it would be for a -12. It's an extra -4 on top of 2 other hits to bring in Neto for Kelleher. And I just wonder, do I just back Areola to keep a clean sheet against Burnley at home? Because on paper, is probably one of the better fixtures this week. And whilst Neto has 2 great fixtures, I don't mind banking on the fact that Areola gets something. So at the moment, I'm probably planning on not making a goalkeeper transfer. But once you've seen my entire team, let me know if you think it is worth the extra hit. In defence, I am in a bad spot, right? Apart from Gabriel against Brentford at home, and I don't even think that's a great chance for a clean sheet. I truly don't. I know Arsenal are ridiculous, and I mean ridiculous defensively, but Tony is Tony. They've got Mbermo coming back. Visser has been back for a while now. He had like 5 or 6 shots in game week 27. So I think they're a team that are attacking fairly well. They're not defending very well. But I don't look at this and say this is an obvious clean sheet potential. But obviously, I'm not going to sell Gabriel this week. Outside of that, it's a disaster. Ake's got Liverpool, blank Arsenal. I don't really want to own him. Pau Torres has a fixture in 29. But he's still not started since coming back from injury. And even if he does start this game, it's Tottenham at home. I'm definitely not expecting a clean sheet for either Spurs or Aston Villa. So Pau Torres, whilst he could play in 29, and I really hope he does, not ideal for this week. I've then got Charlie Taylor against West Ham away. I never want to play Charlie Taylor if possible. He did actually okay for me last week when I had to play him. He actually got, I think, 0.34 expected assist. He created a big chance as well. So in the weeks where you really do have to play him, you never know what you're going to get. And I'll probably have to play him in game week 29. But ideally, I'm not going to play him against West Ham away. And then the final one is Pedro Porro. We thought Porro would be back in training this week, but on Monday and Tuesday, he was not pictured in team training. Now, it could be that he's back in training on Thursday and Friday and he has the chance to play, but I'm going to go off the basis that Pedro Porro is not available for game week 28. I really need Pedro Porro available for 29. If he's not available for 29, I've not only lost Richarlison for 29, I've lost Porro for 29. And this then goes back to the conversation about plan continuation bias. And if I get another injury to another player that I thought I'd have in 29, maybe I do just free hit and just say, do you know what, I tried, but different things happened. I had injuries, I had other issues to deal with, and now I can't get away with not playing a chip around this period. So I'm not quite there yet, but I'm getting close. And if we get a really bad update on Porro that he's not available for 29, that will be really tough, because I held Richarlison and Porro through blank game week 26 in the hope that they would be available for 29. For both to then not be available would be a real sucker punch for me. But I'm going to go off the basis that he's maybe available for 29, but not available for 28. That's probably the information that we have right now, which basically means that I can't play Porro. I really don't want to play Taylor. And therefore, I've got Pau and Ake that either have to start or have to be sold for me, along with Gabriel. I'm not planning on selling Pau Torres unless, again, he re-aggravates his injury and we don't think he'll be available for 29. So Pau Torres is probably going to have to start for me against Tottenham at home, which isn't ideal, but you just never know. No one's keeping clean sheets anyway, really, apart from Arsenal. And no, he's not got much attacking threat, but like I said, you just never know. The odd cheeky assist, maybe he gets up from a corner and gets something. I just need him to start, though. Otherwise, we are looking at having, again, Charlie Taylor coming off the bench for me, which really isn't ideal. Which then leaves me with Ake. And whilst I think from 31 onwards, Ake could be a decent pick, remember I'm looking to wildcard then myself. So I think Ake to a double game week defender this week makes a lot of sense. And this is the easiest transfer for me. Assuming that I'm not free hitting in 29, Ake to Doughty is just so obvious. I've not changed on that plan all week. I've not yet made the transfer because you just never know. Like I said, if I decide to then free hit in 29, I probably wouldn't go for Doughty. I'd maybe go for a Bournemouth defender instead. So at the moment, I've not made the transfer because I just want to see what happens across the next few days. But Ake to Doughty gives me two extra fixtures across the next two. And also, he's got Crystal Palace, Bournemouth, Forest, whereas Ake's literally just got Liverpool. And he's got more attacking threat than Ake. I just think that is such an obvious transfer on paper for me. So at the moment, not planning a goalkeeper transfer. I am planning a defender transfer, but it's just Ake to Doughty and then just accept the fact that Powell's probably going to get me 1 point at most. Let's now move on to the midfield. So this may be one of the shorter midfield sections we've done for a while, and that's because three of these players just makes no sense to sell them at all, and I'll fly through those. So Heung-min Son, brought him in last week. I think the Villa game this week actually suits him. He's then got a great fixture in 29 against Fulham, and even if I did decide to free hit in 29, he's got Luton in 30, where he is arguably the best captaincy option. So Heung-min Son just wouldn't be sold in any regard for me unless something happens where I feel like I need to, i.e. an injury. But at the moment, Sonny's fine. Saka has just been ridiculous lately. He's now, I think, the top scoring player in the game outside of Ollie Watkins. He's the top scoring midfielder. He's just scoring for fun at the moment and getting assists and bonus points, and he looks back to his best. And I think the reason for that, actually one of the main reasons, Arteta's starting to rest him a little bit more. So he's actually, when they are 3 or 4 goals up, bringing him off around 60 to 70 minutes. So Saka's minutes actually haven't been perfect recently, but he's getting a lot of his returns in the first half. So I think for that reason, Saka's absolutely fine. Decent fixture this week against Brentford at home. No plans on selling him. And then Cole Palmer, I know he doesn't play in 29, but he's got Newcastle at home this week, which is a great fixture. And then he's got Burnley in 30 as well. And if I'm planning to wildcard in 31, I will have Cole Palmer anyway. But I like the fact that he's got that Burnley fixture in 30. Again, a potential captaincy shout along with Heung-min Son, considering that Haaland plays against Arsenal. So I think Son, Palmer, Saka makes absolutely no sense selling them, which then leaves me with Foden and Richarlison that I could potentially sell if I want to bring in a midfielder. And I am looking at selling one of the two this week. If there is any chance, and I mean any chance, just a small smidge of a chance, that Richarlison is available for 29, I think I would keep him. Because even if he comes off the bench and gets me a few minutes, it's an extra point, and that might be important in a week like this. So, yeah, if there's any chance that Richarlison's available, I will keep him. But he's still not been pictured in training, and if we're still going off what Postecoglou said, rather than what Richarlison said in the interview with ESPN Brazil, Richarlison's not supposed to be available until after the international break. And even if he is available for the international break, it's looking like it will be the second game of the international break, which basically means we don't expect Richarlison to play in game week 29. And I don't think Postecoglou lies at all. Sometimes I do think he maybe goes more on the conservative side of things and maybe overemphasizes how long an injury is going to be there for. But I still don't think he lies. And therefore, let's go on the basis that Richarlison is probably unavailable. And if by the end of this week, he's still not been in any training with the team, I'd probably lean towards selling Richarlison. The reason that I kind of want to keep Phil Foden isn't actually because I think Foden's a brilliant option this week. In fact, I will be benching Phil Foden this week. It'll either be Phil Foden being sold this week or Phil Foden being benched this week. The reason is what I spoke about in my Game Week preview video, which is I have money tied up in Foden and Haaland. And a bit of a spoiler alert, we'll discuss in a second the good possibility that I sell Haaland this week. I have 0.3 million tied up in Foden and 0.3 million tied up in Haaland, which means if I sell Foden and Haaland and then want to buy them back on my Game Week 31 wildcard and they don't go down in price, I will lose technically or have to pay 0.6 million more to bring them back in. So I am losing quite a bit of my team value by selling the two of them. And I don't think that should put you off massively, because if there are points to be had in the meantime, let's say I sell Foden and Haaland and gain 20 points over the next couple of game weeks, it's definitely worth the money lost. Because as I always say, team value and budget is completely useless if you don't convert that into points. You could be sat of 115 million value right now. If that hasn't been converted into points, it really doesn't matter. And the closer you get towards the end of the season, team value matters less and less. Because, again, it's about getting points on the board and your time is running out with that. So it shouldn't put you off selling them. But if I have a possibility and way to keep one of them and save a little bit of money and sell the other one, I'm kind of hedging my bet slightly in the sense that I'm trying to attack and get points right now, but I'm not losing all of the value I have attached to them. And the more I look at a Game Week 31 wildcard, I think I want Phil Foden on that. I think on my Game Week 31 wildcard, as things stand right now, I'll have triple Arsenal, triple Liverpool, and triple City. right? I think I'm going to have 9 players from the 3 best teams in the league. And I think my 3 City will probably be Edison, believe it or not, and we'll discuss that nearer the time, Foden and Haaland. And so I just think I am losing a lot of money for just a couple of weeks of being able to attack. And therefore, if Richarlison is out, or there looks like a very good chance he's not available for 29, I think I would rather keep Foden, bench Foden, sell Richarlison, and whoever I bring in for Richarlison would go into the starting 11. So we'll kind of discuss that in a little bit when we look at my entire team and my current transfer plans. But it will be one of Foden and Richarlison sold this week. It really depends on the update that we get from Postecoglou and whether we start to see Richarlison back in training. Hopefully that makes sense. Let's move on to the 3 forwards and then discuss what my current transfer plans are. So moving on to my 3 forwards, and I think this is relatively straightforward this week because I don't think 2 of them can be sold. We'll start with Solanke. He's the obvious captaincy shout this week. Unless he has re-aggravated his injury and that he is a doubt for 28, he will definitely be my captain. I've already used the triple captain on Haaland this season, but if you haven't, I would triple captain Solanke. I think he's the best remaining opportunity outside of game week 37, but you just never know what will be happening in 37, and there's a good chance you want to play either your free hit or your bench boost in that week anyway. So unless you don't have any of those chips and you want to risk it, I would triple captain Solanke. And then on Ollie Watkins, I actually don't think it's the best fixture this week, but we saw him return, obviously, in the reverse fixture earlier on in the season, and he's got a good fixture in 29 against West Ham, and then in 30, I think he plays Wolves at home. So Watkins over the next 3 serves me very, very well. And therefore, again, as someone specifically not on the free hit 29 strategy at the moment, I think Ollie Watkins is just an ideal player to have over the next 3. So I can't sell Solanke, can't sell Watkins, which leaves Erling Haaland. And this has gained momentum over the last few days. I will just say that I recorded my video on Sunday and tweeted on Sunday that I think I'm going to be selling Haaland for Morris. So I'm not copying anyone here. It's just been something in my mind for a little while. And the reason that I like the idea of Haaland to Morris, we've spoken about this, is you get 3 fixtures for 1. So Morris has Palace, Bournemouth and Forest over the next 2 weeks, whereas Haaland has Liverpool blank. So you have 3 versus 1. That is the first thing. 6 appearance points versus 2. So you are gaining the points that you've lost with the hit back immediately just through appearance points. On top of that, Morris is actually one of the top scoring players in FPL this season, at least top scoring forwards, and he's missed quite a few games. He's on penalties. He should be good for 90 minutes. The only concern that we have around Morris is that if Adebayo is back soon, which I don't yet know at the time of me recording this, Morris could be pushed either deeper or wide left. And that does make him a slightly weaker option. But I still feel like he's still on penalties. His data's still been okay across the season. And he is still likely to get 3 starts across the next 3. So I just think with Morris, it's minutes, it's penalties, it's fixtures. And it's just banking on the fact that across 3 fixtures, someone that has been pretty good already this season will outscore Haaland against just Liverpool away. If this was Liverpool at home, I'd be slightly more tempted to not make the move. And if on top of that, Haaland had an exceptional fixture in game week 30, because I don't plan on wildcard until 31, again, I would be tempted to not make the move. But then it's Arsenal at home in game week 30. So I feel like I'm not really risking that much by selling Haaland. Now, could this backfire? Absolutely. And I want to make it very, very clear. I'm not saying this is a no-brainer. Some people are saying, if you're not free in 29, it's a no-brainer. It's not a no-brainer. You are selling Erling Haaland for Carlton Morris, right? That is not a no-brainer in any sense. But do I think it's worth the risk? Yes, if you're willing to play the game that way. If Haaland scores a hat-trick against Liverpool, which he is well and truly capable of, and Morris blanks in all 3, you are in a horrible position. And that has not only backfired massively, but that has not ended your season as such, but that has put you back a long way. And I am probably making that move with the full knowledge that this could potentially either make or break my season. I'm fully aware of that. But I think more so realistically, Haaland probably has a good chance of getting 1 or maybe 2 returns in this game. And I think Morris over the next 3 has a good chance of 1 or 2 returns. So I think more likely than not, it's probably going to be fairly even. But I just think there is a higher ceiling with Morris with 3 games than there is Haaland with 1. So I'm not going to keep them going on about the reasons for it, but hopefully that makes sense as to why I do think Haaland to Morris is a decent transfer. The reason that I wouldn't like this is if you're not wildcarding in 30 or 31. If you're playing to wildcard later, even if you're not free in 29, it doesn't make sense because from 31 onwards, you are going to 100% want Haaland back. So I would not sell him unless you are, like me, looking to wildcard in 30 or 31. So yes, there is a good chance that one of my transfers is Haaland tomorrow. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to flash up on the screen now what my current transfer options are. This has been altered slightly since my transfer plans video earlier on in the week because I've thought about a few things, I've ruled out some other stuff, and I think right now I am preferring Bowen to Barkley. And you remember earlier on in the week, if you watched that video, I was preferring Barkley to Bowen. Barkley obviously has one extra fixture. I just think Bowen is a much better FPL asset. And then in game week 30, Bowen's got Newcastle and Barkley's got Spurs. I don't plan on wildcarding until 31, and I just think Bowen has a better fixture that week as well. So I just think over the next 3 game weeks, I just prefer Bowen to Barkley, despite having 1 fewer fixtures. So I think my 3 options at the moment are, you can see for all 3, Ake to Doughty is almost a confirmed move. So all 3 have Ake to Doughty, but option 1 is Ake to Doughty, and then the extra transfer for a -4 of Richarlison to Bowen. Again, if Richarlison has a chance of being fit for 29, that would be Foden to Bowen. So Ake to Doughty, and then one of Richarlison or Foden to Bowen for a -4. That is the first possibility. The second possibility is I don't make the midfield transfer. I just do Ake to Doughty and then Haaland to Morris. So again, only a -4 hit for this one, but it would be Haaland to Morris as opposed to the midfielder to Bowen. And then option 3 is I do all 3 of them for the -8, which is currently the way that I'm leaning right now, which is Ake to Doughty, Richarlison to Bowen, and Haaland to Morris. This gives me 3 extra players for Game Week 29, assuming Richarlison's not available, and also it gives me 2 extra doublers this week. So I am getting 3 for the price of 1 in the Doughty transfer, 3 for the price of 1 in the Haaland transfer, and then with Bowen, I am not getting an extra fixture in 28 because I could just play Phil Foden, but I am getting the extra fixture in 29, and I just think this is a good entry point for Jared Bowen. He's playing against Burnley at home. This is a good week to bring him in. If I'm going to bring in Bowen anyway, do it this week and get the best fixture that he has across the next 3. So with that in mind, and with option 3 being the way that I'm leaning, let's now take a look at what my team would look like with those 3 planned transfers. So guys, the AI recommended transfer for this week from Fantasy Football Hub, and if you want to get access to this, there is a link down below in the description, is actually Kelleher to Kaminsky. So based on points projections, the way that I can get the most additional points into my team is bringing in a double game week goalkeeper, and they actually back Kaminsky, and that's because I'm obviously not free hitting in 29. If I just scroll down, by the way, you can choose your chip strategy, and that helps for them to decide which weeks you want to bring in players and how long you want to own them for and stuff like that. But yeah, they're recommending Kelleher to Kaminsky. So maybe it is something I should consider. Maybe is another -4 to bring in a double game week goalkeeper and maybe Kaminsky. But at the moment, I'm planning more outfield transfers. So, like I said, let's take a look. If I just zoom in 1, that's the way the team is currently looking in 28 if I make those transfers. So, Doughty in, Bowen in, Morris in, gives me 2 extra double game week players, 3 extra players for 29. And yes, I've taken a -8. But after the -8, the team's not looking awful. I know a lot of people will be saying you've only got 1 Bournemouth for the best double game week of the season, and you are right. I'm just not overly convinced by any options, apart from maybe 1 defender or Neto. So if I had all of the transfers in the world, I'd have Neto, Zabarnyi, and Solanke. But Neto does make some saves, but given the difficulty of the opposition, maybe not as many saves he's going to make in this double. And Zabarnyi probably will keep at least 1 clean sheet, but he doesn't have, at least this season so far, that much attacking threat. Yes, you've got Cliver and Tavernier, but their minutes aren't fully secure and their data isn't great anyway. I would love an extra 1 or 2 Bournemouth players, but I don't think I'm missing out massively. And I also think a lot of people that choose to free hit in 29 won't own Doughty and they won't own Morris because they will be bringing in Bournemouth players. So I'm almost betting against Bournemouth having the better double and getting more points and bringing in double Luton. And it's a bet that I don't really mind making. So that's the way the team looks in 28. Going into 29, assuming that Porro is available, I would have 9 players, right? So Areola, Doughty, Taylor counts as a player, although not great. Pau Torres, Pedro Porro, Son, Bowen, Watkins, Morris, right? So there's 9. You can see that I've got 10 here because my plan would be Solanke to Tony. I know Solanke's got a decent fixture in 30, but Tony's got Manchester United, and then I'll plan on wildcarding in 31 anyway. So if I want to bring Solanke back, I can. And I just think Tony has got a lot of upside against Burnley in the blank game week. So I think I would want to have Tony. I would then have the option after that to make 1 more transfer for a -4 to field 11. Now, I could take out Gabriel and field 5 at the back for someone like a Reguilon, but I don't think I want to do that. So my only other option, because I've got 3 forwards, is to bring in a midfielder. And at the moment, I've actually only got 2 midfielders for game week 29, which is the major limitation of my team, because midfielders are where all the points are. And I don't have Bailey, I don't have Louise, I don't have Maddison, I don't have Elanga, Gibbs White, all of these other players that free hitters might have. My issue is, I've got money tied up in the Saka, Foden and Palmer. So I could sell them for 2 weeks, let's say do something like, I don't know, Foden to Alanga would give me 2 really good fixtures against Luton, and then who does Alanga have in Luton and Palace? So 2 really good fixtures across the next 2, and I would lose the money that I just discussed. I don't really want to lose in Foden, but maybe the points are there to be had, and it would then give me 11 in 29, or I could just rock with 10. Yes, it's a 4 at the back. Yes, it's Son and Bowen as the only midfielders, but there's that opportunity. Like I said, if Porro's out, then I think the straightforward transfer is probably Porro to Udogie. I could, again, potentially, if I wanted to do... Hello, Udogie. There we go. I could potentially do if I wanted Reguilon in there, but I think taking into account the fixture in 30 as well, Udogie would give me Luton at home in 30. So that is a possibility in 29, that I just do Porro to Udogie. And then in 30, I'll assess my team. It's after an international break. If my team is looking a real mess in 30, I'll just wildcard in 30. But if I think I can get through it, because Arsenal play against City, and I've got some decent fixtures outside of that, maybe I'll just choose to wildcard in 31. So hopefully that plan is clear. It's a -8 in 28. Potentially no hit required in 29, but a maximum of a -4. And I should be able to field 10 or 11 players in 29, and then we'll wildcard out of that. Let me know if you think I should stop sticking to this plan. Let me know if you look at my team and it just says free hit to you. And like I said, I've not ruled out the possibility over the next couple of days of changing the strategy, but I still think I can get through the next few weeks with a couple of hits. So guys, there you have it. That is my Game Week 28 team selection video. Hopefully you did enjoy today's video. And if you did, please do smash that like button. Let's aim for 2,000 likes on today's video. And if you are new around here and you've not yet subscribed, please do consider doing so as well. Thank you very much for watching. Cheers. Bye-bye.